When you have to shoot, shoot, don't talk.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining me for another Trap House podcast. We got a great guest today. Leon of Top Lot Stretcher Company is with us. He's out of Minnesota. He's been at it for a while now. And we talk about all the time. He's sponsor of the show. Amazing adjustable stretchers. And he also sells trapping supplies and fur handling goods. So, check out their website, toplotstretcherco.com. So we're going to pick his brain about a few things, kind of see where he got his start and, go from there. Obviously, we're going to talk about the stretchers. He's involved in a school. We're going to dive into all that. I do got to give it up to the rest of the sponsors as well. We got J3O, that's J3 Outdoors. Check out their website, maker of the Hags bracket. Jeff makes great American-made products. Check out their website, j3o.com. And we also have Weeby Knives. Check out their website, weebyknives.com. There is a plethora of knives, fleshing knives, and goods to choose from there. It's all there on the website. It's a well-made site there. Mark has some great items to choose from for either pro-level guys or just even beginner-level stuff. So he's got you covered. And last but not least, Hoosier Trapper Supply, home of the Top Dog Predator Bait and Jet Fuel Predator Lure. HoosierTrapperSupply.com. Get all your trapping needs there. We got starter kits. We got obviously lure, bait. We do sell deer scent. That's definitely approaching quickly. Whatever you need, check us out. HoosierTrapperSupply.com. All right, I think that covers everything. Let's go talk to Leon. Finally got you on the show, Leon.
All right. Sounds good.
I know it seems weird that we just kind of jump in this, but don't worry, I'll give you a nice fancy intro at the beginning.
I was going to say, you just got to give me the heads up when we're actually trying here, kind of a thing.
Oh, we are right now. We're rolling.
We are?
Yeah. So don't be cussing or picking your nose or nothing like that.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't know on our things they can see us.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
So we normally kick these off with people that have never been on before. Just kind of start us from the beginning. How did you get into trapping and how did you kind of fall in love with it? And then now here you are, you're making adjustable wood stretchers, you're selling supplies and all that.
Okay. Well, for me, getting started is pretty much the same as everybody else. Started out with just going after muskrat. Really didn't know anything about trapping. No one there to actually help me in any way. Basically, just some friends of mine in high school were trapping and heard about it and thought it'd be something I could try. And basically gave rat trapping a try. And like everyone else, just didn't have that good a success until finally somebody did take me under their wing and showed me a little bit on simple muskrat sets and started having some success, and it just kind of took off from there. So just basically worked with rats and basically you'd catch the occasional mink. And, at that time there wasn't that many raccoon like there is now. So when you did catch one, that was kind of a big deal for you. So really started off with that and did that throughout high school until once I graduated high school, I moved on to vocational school. And at that time I was in a different area, didn't really know about trapping in someone else's area type thing. So I did trap for a couple of years, but then not long after that, just got settled in with my full-time job. And once I got settled in, I started trapping there. And same thing, somebody kind of helped me out with learning raccoon trapping, and basically just took to the water. Really started hitting the coon and the mink is really where my love got to be in trapping.
That's probably pretty common for most people from Minnesota. Starting
Well,
with
yeah.
rats.
So
Yeah, I mean,
what time frame, Leon? What?
so I guess for me, when I got started in trapping, it would have been back in the middle 80s.
Okay.
And it basically turned out when the big crash came in 91, I wasn't trapping at that time. That's when I was going to school and just starting my full-time job. And right after that, that's when I basically, prices didn't matter. It was just the want to go out and trap and catch coon is what it turned into. So,
Mhm.
and for me, I'd never been a long liner by any means or a full-time trapper. Basically, me and my wife, we started off pretty young with our family, so I really wasn't able to afford time off of work. So my trapping was early morning hours, and then basically at the end of the day, I'd be checking traps again, then skin until the wee hours of the night and do it all over again. So I mean, my numbers have never been what you would say large, but basically for me, it turned out to be a means of I had to learn how to be an efficient trapper with the little bit amount of time that I had. So that got to be really my quest, was how to be efficient with my time so I could catch some numbers that I was happy with.
I think lots of trappers can relate to that, where they don't necessarily, they're not able to take their vacation during trapping season. It's got to be reserved for family vacations and that kind of thing. So yeah, just fit it in, fit it in when you can. So.
Right. And for me, the thing that really opened up my eyes is once I started going to some trapping conventions and starting to see how other guys were, at that time they were starting to share information and help give you ideas. And that got to be an eye opener to me, was basically learning how to use slide cables, drowning systems. And it took me a while to catch on to it, was to being able to have an extended day check. Here in Minnesota, when you can drown your catch, you can have up to a 72-hour check. But for me, I was always going on a 2-day check. And that was one of my biggest eye openers, was to learn when I ran 2 separate lines instead of checking the same sets day in and day out. I really was doubling my numbers on my take, because I'd be there every other day. So that was an eye opener for me.
Yeah, Indiana we just got a 48-hour check on lethal sets, so body traps or that kind of thing. So we finally got that on our side.
Yeah, for us here, it's been almost forever. It's been a 72-hour check if you're capable to drown, and on the use of your body grip traps. But otherwise, of course, you're dealing with your 24-hour check, of course, when you're on dry ground for your canines. So that's kind of what we have here.
So Leon, do you do any dry land trapping, canine trapping?
That was something that I was kind of late basically getting into, just my want and time just to be on the water. But of course, over time, you always want to expand what you like to catch. So I did start getting into catching coyote and fox. Again, not very big on numbers. But what I ended up really doing was, here in Minnesota, your water opener is the last Saturday of October, and we're way on the southern edge of Minnesota. So really for us, the mink are definitely not prime yet, and then coon, they're looking pretty good, but they're still not prime. So basically, to use it as a tool to keep me out of the water, I started to do land trapping for some coyotes, and then there's more coyote where I am than red fox, but you'd find a pocket here or there for some red fox. So at the start of the season, I would go to dry land trapping, basically to keep myself out of the water, and also to be trying something new, something fresh with the canines.
Yeah. So when's typically is your target time then for water trapping? Mid-November or?
Right, right. Usually right around that 15th of November is sort of your magic day for where your coon are really looking good. Mink are starting to come on, but if you can wait one more week, then for sure your mink are going to be really nice all the way across the board. So, and right now, the way the fur markets are, that's just the way you have to be. If you're going to have anything saleable, you're going to have prime goods, because the unprimed stuff and the not good looking stuff, they're a dime a dozen, and they're just not moving right now.
Right, right.
So you did that for a while, and then what made you start to get into making these boards rather than just buying them?
Well, that got to be another thing too. I'm basically self-taught on my fur put up and things like that too. And again, my only real knowledge came from was going to conventions. And for the longest time, and you guys probably know Greg Schroeder, he was working for NAFA at the time. He would always be doing demos, and I would be picking up things from him on putting up fur. So that really got to be the start of me getting into putting my fur up. But the stretcher thing really came on with, it really came on with my first year going to the winter meeting for the Minnesota trappers. Here in Minnesota, of course, we got our fall convention, and then early in January, we've got what we call the winter meeting. And at the winter meeting there, they would have pelt handling contest. Of course, the association would have meetings, and guys could come in there, and the DNR would be there to tag like their pine marten and fisher as well. But the pelt handling contest was something I've always kept an eye on as a member, but I had never gone. So my first year there, I decided to go to the meeting, and I'm like everyone else. You're a little bit nervous on, am I doing a good job? Not too many of people have seen what I've done. So basically, my wife kind of laughed at me because I told her I'm going to go up to the winter meeting and take some pelts up and try that contest out. And here in Minnesota, you can harvest 16 different species. So in the contest, plenty of the people who would compete in there, well, that's what they'd do. They'd have one of each animal in there. And of course, southern Minnesota here, we don't have pine marten, fisher, bobcats, and things like that. So I told her, I says, yeah, I'm just going to take a couple things. So one night I went out to the shed. I probably had a couple hundred coon out there, and I kind of picked out what I thought was my best coon, and did the same thing with mink. I probably had 50, 60 mink, and picked out the best one of that, a nice fox and a coyote. Well, then the next night I'd come home from work, I would take those pelts and I'd shove them back in my pile. And she goes, what are you doing? I says, I'm too intimidated by these guys. They've been doing it forever. I'm kind of scared to compete. She says, just try it. So there I was. I went through my stuff again, and I picked out, I believe I had 6 different species that I took up there for the competition. And when they were getting ready to announce the winner, well, here, if you win the overall, you're considered the master fur handler of the year. And at the meeting, they were getting ready to announce the winner, and they said we had a new contestant this year, and all his pelts but one took first place, and lo and behold, it was me. And so there I was with only 6 animals, and I ended up winning the Master Fur Handler of the Year. So, so of course you get a pretty good size head on. You feel pretty good about yourself after that. But after the meeting was over, then there were guys over there looking at your stuff, and they were just intrigued with, especially like on my raccoon, they were really intrigued at how mine looked on, and just were asking me all kinds of questions on it. So it kind of went funny from a person who was sort of insecure about what your fur looks like to people were coming to you and wanting to know how you were doing it. I guess to me, I was really taken back by that. So then the following year, it got to be, well, you're going to have to try to defend your title, so to speak. So that year, I think I had 7 different species that year. So I had just 7 different ones to take up there. So it ended up being the exact same thing. They started announcing the competition, and so I had the 7 species up there. 6 of them took first place, and then 1 of them took second. So by the second year, I was wondering, gosh darn it, which one's not good enough to win first place, you know? But
did you ever find out which one it was?
that year I did find out. That year my mink took second. It didn't win first, but it did take second. But then after that second year, same thing. Guys were coming up asking things, and really got to be on coon again. And they were asking me, what do you use for a stretcher on coon? And I says, well, I make my own and I use an adjustable. And they kind of looked at me, use an adjustable? I go, yeah, I kind of just got it based off the dimensions and made my own. And it got to be, God, your coon looks so good. You got to get me a dozen boards. Oh, okay. And then that guy's buddy was standing next to him. Yeah, I want a dozen boards too. Bring them to the convention next year. Okay. So basically I went to a convention with those 2 dozen stretchers were pre-sold, and I basically made another 2 to 3 dozen boards, and I brought them there. And at the time, a good friend of mine was selling snares, and he let me just have a little bit of space on his table, and I set the stretchers up there. And so the show opened on Friday morning, noon on, but of course 3 dozen to sell, but it kind of took off, and guys were liking what they saw. And then it was pretty much, hey, Leon, can you make me a fox board? Hey, Leon, I need an otter board. And it just kind of escalated from there is kind of how it really started.
That's great.
That's pretty cool. So Leon, you also at one point you have a fur handling DVD, is that correct?
We have 3 of them. Yep.
Okay.
We've got, we started off with raccoon. That was the first one. Of course, that was my so-called claim to fame to begin with. And the following year after that, we did a combination one of mink and muskrat. And then a couple years later, we came out with the 3rd one, and that's on coyote for handling on that one.
Mm-hmm.
So, and on those 2, it got to be a real neat thing with now you're selling products. So now you're kind of basically turning yourself into a dealer. So you're on the other end versus being a customer is how I've always seen myself. But now with the DVDs being out there, it was kind of a real treat. You would get some response back from some customers with anything from, yep, I just started putting up fur. I got your video, and boy, it showed me lots of really neat things. And to another guy where basically he'd set a TV up in his fur shed, so he would play a scene of the video, and then he would do that part, and then he would play the next scene and do that too. So it was really kind of a neat thing to know that you produced a product that people really enjoyed, and you did it at a level where they learned and took a lot from it. So to me, that's where a lot of pride comes in, is that you put something out and people learn from it and they're excited about it, you know.
Mm-hmm. So the Top Lot Stretcher Company was born, essentially.
Right.
And
what year was that, by the way?
Actually, I kind of know that off the top of my head here because Denise decided we needed to get patches made up. So on there, we do have it's been established in 2010 is what we're calling the official start of Top Lot.
Okay.
And for Top Lot, it sort of got to be, there was guys out there making fur stretchers, and when it comes to traps, everybody knows traps by a brand name. They know Minnesota Trap Line or MBs, they know Duke, they know Bridger, things like that. So to me, now all of a sudden I'm starting to have this stretcher company. I just didn't want it's Leon Stretchers or something like that. And we sat back for a little while and came up with the idea of just Top Lot Stretcher Company. So that's kind of where the name came from, and really just wanted to have a name to a stretchers, a brand to the stretchers versus just a guy's name stuck on a board.
Right. That obviously good marketing right there. So
Oh,
everybody wants to be the top lot. So
well, that's true. I mean, that is the quest. We all want to do a very good job on putting up our fur. But part of that still is beyond our hands too. I mean, you have to catch your animals at the right time of year, but also you can have a top lot animal, but you can wreck it if you don't handle it properly as well. So it really takes a combination of both to get those type of wards. So yeah, to kind of be the best, it's going to be a top lot. So we kind of wanted to have the best boards out there. So the name kind of coincided with that too. So
Yeah.
well, we can certainly vouch for the quality of your board. So definitely appreciate what the boards that you put out and the quality of the boards and specifications as well. So
yeah, well, I appreciate that. It's good to hear that you guys are putting use to those boards. Like for me, for the longest time, I was basically a NAFA supporter. That's who I shipped all my fur to for the most part. I wasn't religious about it, but pretty much that's where all my fur went. And I pretty much based a lot of my stretcher dimensions off of their dimensions because of course that's who I sold to, but still, like always, we always have our own opinions on a few things. One thing I did shy away on their dimensions was on the mink stretchers. They went with pretty much a more narrow, a more sleek looking type board, where here in Minnesota, we got a very, very good size mink, kind of a large size mink. So for them, like on their female stretchers, their dimensions were only like 3.5 or 3.25 inches. And to try and get that whole skirt condensed down to such a narrow stretch just wasn't working for me. So basically for us, our dimensions for our mink boards, they're all based off of fur harvesters. Those dimensions seem to be more of a true shape to me on boards.
yeah. So I got to ask, there's still a lot of fur put on wire stretchers, but to me, if you put a mink on a wire stretcher, that's like the worst looking piece of fur that there can be.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get by with, a lot of coon commercially are put on wire, that kind of thing, but there is nothing worse than a mink on a wire stretcher. I personally think that. So.
Well, right. I mean, even when you see them used out there on the tailgaters, I think they stay out there until they get used for scrap, just because it's such a distorted look to the animal. A lot of wire stretchers kind of have a oversized balloon shape to them until you put a pelt on it. Then it actually squeezes it down to the so-called true shape. But the mink just don't have enough in them to do it. So they get that little bit of a balloon shape to them. Yeah, very, very unnatural look. But yeah,
for guys that struggle with, wood stretchers are the way to have a beautiful product. That's for sure. So.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that, of course, because that's what we sell. But definitely for the demos I do all over the country, kind of two of the items that, to me, when you put them on wood, gives you so clear-handed, over-the-top, better look is raccoon and coyote. When you put those two items on wood, you can just get a way better presentation when you're selling. like an early, say, let's take an early season coyote. When you put that on wire, you know, the underwool's already undeveloped on it. And now you're going to put it on a stretcher that's very thin along the edge. Well, basically, the fur's not going to roll over that edge. It's just going to break and hold itself open and just really give you an unfinished look versus when you put them on a wooden board, a form, that fur can flow around and kind of take that look away. Because really in the end, whether you're selling to a fur buyer, especially if you're marketing through an auction house, a fur grader, presentation basically is everything. Like I said, I pretty much sold to North America, so my stuff was always being done by a grader. And it, you know, it wasn't his job to decide a value on it. It was really more about assessing categories on where your pelts went. So by doing a very nice presentation, whatever that animal was, you know, its lot was still there, or you're going to be getting bumped up a lot just because the presentation is there. The fur looks, you know, exactly how they want to see it.
Right. So you can basically, you have two animals that are essentially the same size and same quality. And if one is marginally handled and one is handled with expertise, clearly the one will, and if say both of them are, you know, even the one with expertise, if it's, it will get the benefit of the doubt way before the one that is marginally handled.
Right, right. And that's exactly the point I'm trying to make is, you know, a fur grader, they're seeing thousands of skins all the time, day in, day out. They have to push them through, and their window of time to look at it is just mere seconds. And if you can't impress them right off the bat, you just got run of the mill. But
Right.
when you're going that extra mile, combing that stuff up, showing it all off, you know, they're going to appreciate that because, you know, here comes some coon that really look cool to the other 10,000 greasy, flat, dirtied up, muddied up stuff I just looked at. You know, they get excited. And I kind of always say, when your fur buyer has a smile on, or a fur grader has a smile on his face, you know he's happy with what he's looking at, and it's just human nature. Your stuff is going to stay in, or it's going to get bumped up. It's not going down, you know. And that's basically part of marketing, you know, is you want your stuff to be where it is and try to get the most of it that you can.
Right. And I think on the ethical side of it, the animal deserves that as well.
Right. You kind of bring out a good point. And that's where a lot of time that I put into my fur turns into a lot of pride of what I take when I put my stuff up. It's like you say, it's kind of honoring the animal for what you have. You want to do the best you can for it, and just show it off.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys, tell us about the school that you started.
LKL trapping experience. That really was started off as the brainchild of Kendall Obermeyer. He's a trapper. He's been a dealer for quite a while now. He's been manufacturing traps here for quite some time here too. But of all the conventions we go to year in and year out, we just started to just noticeably started to hang out a little bit, got to know each other, and he kind of had an idea of having a school where it's not just canine trapping, or it's not just water trapping. He kind of had an idea where him and me could work really good together, with me on pelt handling, and then him with what he was known at that time on the water side for coon and mink, is the big numbers that he's always caught. And then again, being on the convention circuit, we got to know Liesel, and kind of three of us worked together. And Liesel, of course, he does a lot of coyote trapping and bobcat trapping out there in the West. So it kind of turned into a really nice fit where all three of us have our own expertise and work together. So So the school itself worked out really good that way. 3 guys, 3 different experts, if you will, in what they do. So that was kind of how it sort of came to be. And then we had to start to figure out where we're going to have it at. And Liesel was doing some predation work for a hunting outfitter in Kansas. It's Minneapolis, Kansas. Pipe Creek Outfitters is the guy's name. And he has a very nice setup there where we could house the students and put our school on. And so that's why we chose that location. It works out really, really well for us. You know, we keep our classes small. That's another thing we kind of pride ourselves on. Each class size, the most we'll ever take is 12. And by doing that, we'll break the 12 down into 3 different groups. So with 3 instructors, we have 3 sessions in a day. So if we have, say, 12 students, 4 is your biggest group. And if you're kind of a quiet person or a reserved person, it kind of gets those people in a place where they're more comfortable. So with a small group like that, it works out really well for people to get the most out of it. So like I say, our days are 3 sessions on each day. So if we just pick on what I do, so if like that day, let's just say I'm doing raccoon that day, I'll do it with the first group, I do it with the second group, I do it with the third group. So then at night, all of us are talking about the same thing that we experienced. And Liesel and Kendall do the same thing with all the groups that they have throughout the day. So then that way, when we all get together, we're all excited and talking about the same thing instead of, hey, I didn't get to do that today. You know, like you feel like they're left out. So it's worked out really well that way. So it's been a 3-day school, and just little groups. It's actually easier to teach because you can really figure each student out. You know, you can figure out right away of who's the talkative one versus who's the quiet one. And it helps you out as an instructor because by day 2, you know, the quiet ones you already know, and you know how to get them involved to make sure they're going to get the most out of the experience when they're there. I'm sure, Charlie, I'm sure you kind of experience that at Fur Takers, don't you?
Yeah, at the Trappers College, it's interesting which it starts this Sunday for the most, you know, but we start breaking down into our groups, and Monday everybody's kind of quiet and reserved, and Tuesday it starts, everybody becomes a little more comfortable. Then Wednesday, if you got some jokers in the class or whatever, it's just full blown, you know, full blown.
Right.
Everybody's having a great time. So yeah, it always takes a couple days for people to warm up a little bit and you know, get the mix. I gotta say, we had one class, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago or 5 years ago, and they never meshed. Everybody, even on Friday, everybody's still standing around like this. I was, you know, it's just one of those ones that scratched my head. I never did figure that one out. But anyways, everybody was nice. Everybody had a good time, but it just never meshed, you know, personality wise, maybe, I don't know, or they were all very reserved.
Charlie's too intimidating.
He's too serious, huh?
No, that's EJ. He's the one that's intimidating.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, you do bring up a good point. You want your classmates, if you will, you want them to mesh together. You don't want, of course, people that might have friction with another person type thing. I mean, that's always a fear, but we've been lucky in that aspect. It's been, you know, a lot of really good guys. You know, this year was just a little bit different for us. You know, in the past, we've had some very experienced guys that would catch 200 to 300 coyotes a year, and we would still have some students that were only on their first to second year trapping.
Mm-hmm.
But this year at the school, we just had way more experienced guys, which was great, but it just kind of takes you back. You know, you're always analyzing your students as they come in, but this past year we had quite a few more experienced guys. We actually even had a government trapper come in just trying to find, that added edge,
Mhm.
on taking animals, just wanted more perspective on different ways to take animals. And of course, that guy has to, be taking bobcats and coyotes that are taking animals. And for him, it worked out really good because at the school, they got to learn, Liesel's way of how he traps. And then with Kendall, he doesn't do just all water. One of the days he spends canine trapping as well. So he was able to experience two different trappers that catch a lot of numbers and see two different viewpoints on how to target animals.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the more experienced ones can be a little more challenging, but number one, finding where you can help them, and hopefully they're able to communicate where they feel like they need some more help, or a lot of times just they're already pretty much got it in their mind, this is what they do, and they're successful as it is. And then for them to change gears, which I guess ultimately you don't know if they changed gears when they got back home or not, but that can be a little more challenging, I think. But
right. And when a person like that comes in, you're hoping that they're going to be open-minded. You're going to assume that because that's why they should be coming to the school, of course. Yeah. But yeah, you kind of wonder, how can you give him some guided experience where they should have a bunch already? And still it gets to be sometimes those couple little things that you learn can just change a philosophy or a theory on what you're doing and get you down a better path.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess talking about the school on my end, for me, I'm doing the pelt handling, and we also have the students, one of the days they are at the flesh and beam pelting away too. And that got to be a learning curve for me myself, because the very first year we had the school, I was doing all the pelt handling and the students were like watching and doing minimal. And the feedback I got was they wanted to be at the beam. They wanted me watching over them. And my viewpoint was, I'm going to have some of these newer people and they're going to be like so intimidated in a way. Not that I'm intimidating, but you know how it is when your self-confidence isn't there. I was worried they'd be intimidated and didn't want to be at the beam, but I was actually wrong on that. So since we've been having students working at the beam, it's really helped them guys out. And I kind of learned a different teaching strategy, so to speak, a little bit, because, when you're at the beam, you're talking and you're trying to show how you're using a knife and why you're using a knife this way. And now you got to stand on the other side of the beam, and you might have an experienced guy, or you got somebody who just picked up a fleshing knife for the first time, and you have to kind of walk them through it. So that got to be a challenge on my end, but I tell you what, it's pretty rewarding on that end. Over the years here, I've kind of learned how to flesh coon upside down, standing on the wrong side of the beam a little bit, guiding people's hands. But it is rewarding to see some people who have just started taking it on and they struggle a little bit, and I can just grab their hands, and sometimes it's just the tip of the knife. If they're say they're fleshing a coon and they're on the sharp side and they just don't have the bite quite right, they're trying to keep it too flat, they're a little bit nervous. And the one guy was like that, and I looked at him and I says, "You getting it?" He says, "Yeah, I think I'm getting it." And I was dealing with another student. I came back to him and I says, "You sure you getting it?" "Yeah, I just can't quite feel the bite of my knife." I says, "Okay." So I'm standing on the other side of the beam and I put my hands on top of his. I says, "All right, just start stroking. My hands are just guiding with you." And I could tell he didn't have the knife pitched quite right. I says, "All right, now you loosen your grip and I'm going to take over." And I grabbed his hands and I tipped the knife a little bit more. And I says, "Are you ready? Here we go." And we just took one big stroke, came off nice and clean. And his eyes just like blew up out of his head. And he goes, "Holy cow, what's that?" I go, "That was the bite. You could feel it in the knife, couldn't you?" And was intimidated by that. And it's just neat how after that, he just took off. I didn't even have to check back in with him. He just went on his way. But that was just one of those little things that he needed help with.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think once it clicks, it clicks. I mean, I think subconsciously most of us hold a knife and move it without thinking about it once you do several skins. But for the guys starting out, once it kind of clicks, then they got it, and obviously what you did, got him over that little bit of that hump and, got him right through it. So.
Right. I mean, they can watch you for a week straight, but they're never really going to get it until they're on that side of the beam running the knife. And
right.
And once I got into my head, that's what the students needed to do. Saw the reactions, and then now years later, them students coming up to me and telling me what they're doing in their first shop and how appreciative they were with what they learned from the school. That's the nice rewarding part of teaching, I guess.
Yeah. So, how many classes do you guys have a year then, Leon?
We have been doing as many as 3, but with Liesel's and Kendall's predation work that they've been doing, right now we're only scheduled to do one school this year. It's May 16th through the 18th, and we're basically, I think we're like 3/4 filled up at this moment. And I think what it really is if we get a waiting list going for maybe a second school, we'd probably go right into having a second one. So we're even more limited this year than in the past. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was like, and that got me thinking, Charlie getting ready to go to the college, and you talking about teaching people hands-on. The skinning day there, the last day of the college, when it's like, is it the last day or the day before?
Yeah, I mean, it's the last day of actual
hands-on
classes for the most part. It's Friday afternoon.
And there's 60 people almost out there, and everyone's trying to skin stuff, and it's pretty neat to see everyone hands-on and involved, and some of them are just thrilled to be doing it even in the heat.
So yeah, but you always got a few that just really aren't that interested in fur handling, and they're sitting on the side just hanging out and visiting, and then you got everybody else that's just right in the middle of it, so.
Right. Yeah, it kind of takes all different types. Just your story right there reminds me of a student we had probably about 3 years ago. So like first day, you're doing your meet and greet, you're going around trying to figure out what they want to get out of the school. And this guy said that, Leon, I'm going to watch you put your fur up and stuff, but I really don't have much interest in putting up fur. And like, oh, all right. So the first day I was putting up fur, and he was watching, but, not taking in all the little tips and stuff I was doing. Well, then day number 2 came around, and now he was at the fleshing beam, and he's like, boy, I sure wish I would have paid more attention, But so we ended up spending a little bit more time with him, but we worked through it with him, and tell you what, by the end of the day, he started thinking, boy, this pelt handling's not too bad. Now he's going, boy, I wish I would have paid more attention the first day. Yeah. Then on the third day, holy cow, he was like front and center, and he was asking just plenty more questions because, he kind of missed out because he was a little lackluster, so to speak, on that first day. And then once he started doing it, and right now he still is putting up fur where he didn't think he was going to do it. So
yeah. It's kind of interesting how it's changed over the years. Like in the 70s and early 80s, it was kind of thought to be 70s, probably more full circle, that you put your fur up. I mean, that was just what you did, and then of course the big fur boom came, and a lot of guys sold their stuff, as they call it, green, but it was still that idea that kind of you went first full circle. And we kind of with the auction companies, I think, NAFA and Fur Harvesters, a lot of people probably went back to putting fur up because that was one of the few alternatives to market fur when you come, particularly if you're in areas where you don't have a fur buyer in every town like we did back years ago. So it's definitely changed over the years. For much for the better. I will say fur in the 70s. I bought fur starting in 76. And man, there was some rough handled stuff. I mean, the guys that never scraped their, it was, and they got by with it back then. It was just kind of, I don't know, a re-scraped coon was acceptable. And now that would be like just a piece of junk. Yeah. So,
Right. Right. Yeah. And you kind of bring up an interesting point. So like when I first started trapping, that's kind of how I thought everybody was. To be a complete trapper, you caught your stuff, you scun it, and you put it up. And through time, I didn't even know people were selling stuff green when I was younger. But of course, then you learn people are selling it green. So when we first started Top Lot Stretcher Company, so here we are making stretchers. So trapping industry in itself is a small market. And now we're going to be on the pelt handling side of it, even a smaller portion to speak of the market. It started to be, well, in my mind, I kind of thought I'm only targeting 30% of trappers because 70% of them are already putting their stuff up. But after the first year or so of selling boards, I started learning I was wrong. It was the other way around. There was only 30% of the trappers are actually putting up their fur, and 70% were, I'll just catch more fur. I'll sell it green. I can make more money catching more animals versus putting them up. And now especially where the market is, as tough as it is, and we've lost so many of our fur buyers, especially the small ones, they've really been falling away. And some of the bigger ones now have kind of started falling away. On our end, we're seeing more sales pick up because now these people have to put up their fur, whether they are going to ship it or send it to a buyer that's farther away. Or on the other hand, we're getting lots of people who are new to trapping, and their biggest thing they want to get out of it is they want to catch something. They want to skin it, they want to stretch it, and they want to get it tan it, and more, I'm going to call it the newer generation trying to get into trapping, where they want to touch on all the phases of trapping, not just the actual, I want to catch this, now what? They're already thinking all the way through from catch to a wall hanger in their house. Hey, I caught that,
Right.
We're seeing that on our end here.
Right. Yeah, guys will come in our shop and they've never set a trap before, and they'll be buying trapping supplies, and sometimes they'll be buying fur handling equipment the same day. So I mean, and they've never even set a trap before, so they're already in their mind, they're going the whole full circle. So
right, the whole cycle. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
The best one is when they're buying like a trapping kit, and then they ask how much does it cost to mount a coyote, because they already know we're gonna have success, we're gonna catch a coyote, get a taxidermy.
It's always nice to know they're confident going in, right?
That's right. The so Leon, in Minnesota, do you still have, I know you don't like you used to, do you still have some local fur buyers? Or I mean, your state, your fur is, in the scheme of things, better quality fur than what we have, generally speaking, just particularly coon and much larger but anyways, do you still have some fur buyers left, or is it tough to find them? Or
we still do have a few buyers here. There'd be like Johnson Fur up by Wilmer. He's buying some fur. The Cumberland family, Northwest Trap Supply, they're still buying fur. If you get all the way to the eastern side of the state, Webkeys, they're what, fourth generation, they're still buying some fur. And if you get up to northern Minnesota, there's Matt Carlson. He's still buying up there. North Star Fur is up there. He's still buying too. So yeah, we still do have a number of some buyers out there. but again, it's not how it used to be. You could drive 30 miles down the road and find 2 fur buyers, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, we are blessed here a little bit with some nice quality fur. Where I am at here in the southwest corner, I'm lucky. The coon we have here are just great. Lots of those nice 2 and 3 color, the silvers, the blacks. A strong number of our coon will be that. Of course, we'll get our off colors, but we'll predominantly have that 2-3 color. We're definitely not blessed with coyote. We've got more of a redder phased coyote, nothing like what you'll see out in the Dakotas. I mean, you go 50 more miles to the west, you're going to start getting into some better coyote for sure than what we have here.
If you want to feel better about your coyotes, you can come and look at the ones here in Indiana.
Nice coarse hair, do they?
Yep, nice and coarse and very harsh colors.
Right, you probably got a lot of dark on the back with the reddish tinge coming around to the legs.
That rusty brown, yeah.
It's been a couple years now, but when that coyote market was really strong, for me in the southwest corner here in Minnesota, sent into NAFA, coyotes were always classified as Easterns. Even though I'm on the west side, ours are still classified because they just don't have that that silkiness to them like the Dakotas, the Montanas have. But when that market was strong that last year, I sent a small group up. I think it was like 13 or 15 coyotes. And of all my other years till then, I never had a single Western coyote, but that year, every single one of them were Westerns. So it kind of goes to show when the market is strong, everything is in. And when the market is tough, the grade is tough. I mean, when you get some top lots, when say like the coon top lot is $15, $16, you've truly earned some top lot stuff there because, you know, the grade is very tough.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah, yeah, when you that's a good statement because you kind of like to think of these, of course, NAFA's history, but you like to think of these auction companies as having a fairly consistent grade so that the buyers on the other end would kind of know what to expect. Of course, they can look at the sample lots, but like you said, when the market's really good and they can't really feel like they can satisfy the need with maybe what they have, everything gets pushed. I mean, you know, it's just, we'll take it, but it's kind of hard when it goes the other way.
Yeah, exactly. And when things are good, boy, it's fist over fist. And when it's the other way, you kind of starve. So
yeah. We're kind of in that starvation point right now if you're dependent on the fur market, and fortunately most of us aren't. So, but it's
right. It's a pretty tough boat right now. I did see on that last sale there was a fair number of beaver that are moving. You know, the price has moved up some. You know, nothing where we'd like it to be, but it's encouraging to know that things are moving, and it's still really a hatter market that's driving a lot of it.
Right.
Where about a year ago, it seemed like the hatter market had all the beaver it could take, and it's like they weren't going to take anymore. But I don't know what happened on that end, but they're definitely in the demand of wanting it still. So that's encouraging there.
Right. So do you put up any beaver?
You know, since the market has been as bad as what it's been the last 3 years or so, I haven't, just for the fact of I can sell a skun out beaver hide for about a $8 to $9 average, or I could scrape it, you know, stretch and dry it and sell it for $9, maybe $9.50, you know. So for 50 cents to $1, I got too many stretchers to make to be processing the beaver, but yeah, I do enjoy putting up the beaver. It's probably because you got to have a lot more knife control when you're doing beaver versus say scraping a mink or a muskrat or a fox, so to speak. a little more challenging on your pelt handling skills there with Beaver.
Right. Right.
Um,
Are you tacking on wood or are you using hoops?
to me, I'm going to definitely be putting mine on a board.
Yeah.
You know, again, we keep relating back to NAF, even though they've come and gone, but you know, for a long time, they were acceptable to whether you put them in the oval shape on a board or you hooped them up on hoops. You know, that was acceptable for a while until at the end. Then they did come out and they didn't want them on hoops. Or if you did use hoops, you better be using either a piece of wire or a rope to distort that circle into an oval.
Mm-hmm.
Because what ended up going on was when everything got completely finished out, the end user, when they started processing those Beaver, the round ones basically was an uneven stretch. So the fur density showed up uneven, which maybe to you and me didn't seem like a big deal. But when you're trying to put a coat together and have that nice consistent flow of fur, when it's an uneven stretch, you could see it in a coat. And then they started to go away from saying it's okay to use hoops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely on the oval pattern on the boards. I'm a staple down guy. I don't use pins. I don't use the nails. I'm a hurry up, get her done with staples type guy.
Mm-hmm. So how you getting your staples up then?
Well, for me, on my staple gun, I have a shim underneath it. So I'm using a longer staple. With that shim underneath it, that holds my staples up a little bit. So now I can either just use my comb to pop them out, or if they're really stuck, just it's really a bent screwdriver and you can pop them out that way.
Okay.
So that usually works pretty well that way.
Yeah. Yeah. You know. Yeah. We were a NAFA receiving agent until everything fell apart. But of course, you saw the very best of fur handling, then you saw some really poor fur handling, you know, as an agent. When prices were lower, the fur handling quality overall was better than if the fur prices were high, like when we hit a 2013, because you got new guys jumping in thinking they were going to get rich or whatever they thought, you know, so right. A lot of that stuff was poorly handled as compared to the guys that had been doing it for a while. So, and everybody left now. That's wanting to market fur generally has a pretty good sense of what's going on. Of course, we've got all these new guys, like you said, that are in it for the experience of it. So yeah, we still got a mix, but generally, as we noticed, as far as receiving fur, when the prices were lower, the overall fur put up was more consistently better from bag to bag. So.
Right. So you were like on the other side of the table when people were bringing stuff to you, you got to see the whole rainbow array from top quality to holy cow, I can't take this thing in.
Yeah.
I can remember one time Webkeys were coming around to buy fur and I got to know them a little bit throughout the years. And so I went to see where prices were. So I showed up there and some guys were bringing some coon, coyote, of course, in, and all of a sudden this guy pulls out of his bag. He had 3 coon that basically he skunned them, put them on a wire stretcher and prayed that they would dry with all that fat and grease on there. So he pulled those out and Jason Webke was the one that was there that day. And Jason looked at that and he flipped it over and he seen me off to the side and he goes, Leon, I go, what? And he looks at that guy. You need to take this over to Leon because he's got to teach you how to improve here because I can't buy this. I mean, this is just going to rot away. And, right. And the guy didn't know any better. He didn't know the information on how to do it. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotta learn somehow, I guess. That was the
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes the hard knocks are the hard way to learn too. So
yeah.
So what conventions you got yet this fall?
We just got back from New York a day ago, and we've got 5 more to go.
Oh,
so you're getting ready to head out to the Fur Taker College. We're getting ready to head out to Wisconsin this next weekend. So I believe it's Wisconsin, Missouri, Nebraska. Gerald Schmidt's got an open house that next weekend. I'm going to be doing a demo there. And then we go to Illinois. And then our last show is going to be that Southeast Regional in Virginia.
Okay.
You know, we haven't been down or out that way in a while. The Fur Takers was in Virginia a couple of years ago, and that was a really nice show out there. So we thought we would give her a whirl again and kind of head out that way. So for us with Top Lot, of course, we're on the finish side. You know, we get asked to go to many, many states to set up as a dealer, but we have kind of learned that we can only really like go so far south, so to speak, because there's plenty of trappers down there, and we do have customers down that way as well. But them southern shows, they've got a number of trappers there, but it's more predation work. It's not trapping for fur. So like I said, our niche is kind of small in the trapping world, and say we go down to Arkansas, we're in an even tighter, smaller, place to make a dollar at. So Yep. So we have a number of shows left coming here. We've been typically running between 9 to 10 shows a year, which gets to be a lot, but we do enjoy going to a lot of the shows. We've been making lots of good friends in them states, whether it's people within the association or just your customers you have in them states. It's not always just about there to make sales. It's about making connections with your customers, as well as some friends that you're meeting down there as well. So
right.
A lot of good time at them shows.
Yeah, everybody's there with a common interest of trapping, and so it's they're good times.
Yep, definitely. Yep.
On all aspects of it. So
we appreciate you being on, Leon, and supporting the show and being a sponsor from pretty much ever since I asked you, almost at the very beginning, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we were on the first year with you or not, but I can remember it seemed like there was a couple years in a row there. Your guys' booth was either right next to us or right across the alleyway, and got to see each other for a while there. And when you first asked, I'm more of a hands-on guy, not into this digital technical age, so to speak. And so here I got Jet coming over with this sheet of paper, show it to my wife, Denise. I go, what is this? What's a podcast, And I think I kind of forgot all about it. And and then you asked me again, and I thought, well, maybe I don't know everything. I got to learn more of some of this stuff. So let's just give it a try. And it's worked out really well for us, because we've had customers let us know that, hey, we heard that you're sponsoring the podcast here, and just want to let you know that. And I'll probably say it's good to hear that from your customers, because when it comes to advertising or who you want to support, you just ain't quite sure all the time where to spend your money at and things like that. So when we get feedback like that, it's reassuring that we know we're reaching out to our customers where they like to hear us, and support us that way too. So
right. I know Justin does the intro with your contact information, but as far as the school, can they contact you through that information for the school too, or is that different?
Nope. Contact for the school, you could either contact Liesel, Kendall, or Top Lot. Usually your best course of action is to give us a call here at Top Lot. Denise, she's the brains of the operation and keeps the wheels running here. I'm just the face of the company, so to speak, and do the demos, all that kind of stuff. But to keep things up and running, that's Denise. So if people are out there that are interested in the school, they can contact us at Top Lot, and we can definitely tell you more about it.
Okay, and that is, I don't know if you mentioned, it's Liesel Rusat, Kendall Obermeyer, and you guys,
and myself. Yep, that's correct. Yep.
So
good deal. Well, hopefully we see you at a convention again. I'm sure we will.
We may be over in Illinois. I haven't decided yet. So but
Okay. That would be what, about a 5-hour trip for you guys?
for Illinois,
Yeah.
no, it's like three. It's close, 3.5 hours. So
Oh, so we'll see you in a few weeks then.
yeah, very possibly. Yes.
All right, Leo. We'll catch you next time, and thanks again. Tell
All right.
Denise I said hi.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
You bet.